Hi, my name's LEESHx, but most people call me Leash. Today we are ranking palaces in Persona 5 Royal from worst to best. Please bear in mind this is purely my own opinion. If you agree or disagree, that's totally fine. My choices are based on the palaces themselves, as well as how the story interlinks with the palaces and its themes. It should be obvious by now, but I'll say it just in case. This video does and will contain spoilers from Persona 5 Royal. If you wish to remain unspoiled, come back to this video at a later time. With that being said, let's get into this video. Okumura's palace provides an interesting look into the mind of a leader of a big corporation. Turning his Big Bam Burger train into a space station was interesting and all, but after a short period of time the palace became boring to me, as well as the music eventually becoming stale after being on a loop for an extended period of time. The arc of Morgana leaving the thieves via a disagreement with Ryuji was fine and all, but it was very sudden and short, and I felt didn't make much sense in the grand scheme of things, as it was really rushed. Yes, it made Haru and Morgana team up, which then led to them eventually being brought back into the team, but I feel the Morgana leaving arc intertwined with this story overshadowed Haru's troubles regarding her father. Had the arc been more fleshed out and had a bigger, more dramatic build-up, I feel it would have had a bigger impact and in turn made the palace more interesting. Of course, the boss battle is a very obvious reason many dislike this palace too. Being unknowingly underleveled or not having the right skill set to combat weaknesses, bundled with the timed element of the boss, goes from interesting challenge to irritating pain. Be aware, this was my first Persona game, so perhaps that's why this boss caused me so much trouble. Even though you're prepared for what is in store, I don't see this as anything interesting to talk about. Not much was really memorable, in a good way anyway. And it's one reason I don't think I'm going to rush to replay Persona 5 Royal anytime soon. I just don't want to repeat this palace. Mementos was a great place to grind and uncover more insight to how the universe in this game worked. From side quests to general exploration, it had it all. I loved the light up puzzles as they weren't too difficult, but as they progressed, I did have to use my brain a little to solve them. They didn't seem too much of a challenge, seeing as this was pretty much endgame content, so it can kind of feel unnecessary to be in this quote-unquote palace at times. It became more of a I did it because I had to thing instead of I did it because I wanted to, which, you know, kind of a bad thing really. Plus, the Holy Grail fight is great in concept and the message it portrays in the grand scheme of things is great. To me, however, I wasn't too bothered about it. Not much really to hype up about this fight. Like, there was so much more that could have been done in this scenario to have been better and much more memorable and fleshed out. Futaba has one of the best introductive arcs in this game for me. Alibaba is such a curveball to the story, and how that allows us to see Sejiro's personality open up too is really, really good. I love the aspect of going to the town before the actual palace, as it was completely different to anything prior. Typically you just go straight into the palace, so here, kind of having a miniature side quest in another town really kind of changed the pace, and I liked that. The theming was good, being in the pyramids, but it also wasn't great. Some aspects of the pyramid did feel very samey, we were kind of repeating the same kind of process, and at a certain point, you know, it kind of gets a bit dull repeating the same sort of motions. The boss is fine, but nothing to really get excited about, so it remains a kind of unmemorable palace for me yet again. Despite the palace overall kind of leaving me feeling empty, I definitely adore Futaba as a character, and the Alibaba storyline was really, really fun to figure out and unravel. Then being able to kind of see Sejiro open up to a more soft side once you know about Futaba, it's really nice, and it really helps build his character and make him someone that you really see as a father figure, which is really nice. Firstly, the music for this palace is a straight up bop, and really creates a fun atmosphere to be in for a few hours while you complete the palace. Infiltrating a bank as a phantom thief was perfect for the obvious reasons, and linking that to Kaneshiro and his thirst for wealth was perfectly connected. Code finding to break further into the vault was fun. It did however get a bit repetitive the further in you got, but it's a bank, there's various vaults to break through, it makes sense. It's going to be tedious to get to the treasure because it's a bank. It needs to be hard to get in. So it's a kind of a, you know, a bit of yin and yang, shall we say. The boss fight was decent, and Kaneshiro turning into a bug was absolutely comical and very standout and memorable. I can't remember much other part of the fight, but him being a bug, yeah, I'm gonna remember that for some time. On top of that, Makoto's arc here was brilliantly implemented. We saw her evolve from kind of this teacher's pet, not wanting to stray from the law, doing things as they should be, to this kind of independent badass woman who's coming into her and discovering that, you know, you don't have to follow the rules word for word if you're aware that, you know, maybe bending the rules a bit actually benefits more people in the end. It really made her a standout character in The Phantom Thieves, and she went from being someone I wasn't a fan of to someone I really, really liked in the end of it. And it was just cool to see her continue to grow and thrive right from this palace. Shido's palace is technically the ending of the original Persona 5, and I can see why people found it to be a satisfying ending. Plenty of cool plot lines occur within this one, and the difficulty seems very well balanced for this palace, as well as the music and theming really complementing the overall experience. The enemies are good to fight, and the rap puzzle sections are fun and creative to change the pace from what we were used to. The Shido fight I found to be brilliant, with the varying phases continually keeping you guessing, and having to change your strategy without being so overly difficult that it becomes annoying. Very good palace, however there are a few more I just enjoyed a little bit more and found to be more memorable in the long term. Nothing beats a good heist inside an art gallery, with the movie-like laser beams and high-level security cameras to keep you on your toes. This one ranks so highly due to how it implemented the storyline alongside the palace themes and the boss. Initially, Yusuke wasn't on my radar, but the plotline with the Sayuri painting was a complete shock reveal to me in the end, and I loved how it turned a somewhat mediocre villain in Madarame, you know, accused of plagiarism, into this really evil man who will do anything in order to succeed purely for himself. Madarame's palace continually sticks out by being consistent with an art gallery and a museum theme, absolutely spot on. The music is chill, but it keeps you on your toes enough to not make you completely relax. The boss fight, the retraversal to the paintings, a lot of this palace is just really well implemented in my opinion. On that note of the going inside the paintings, it was such an unexpected way to traverse this palace, and it had a slight puzzle solving element to it that just was a fantastic surprise, and I kind of wish palaces further down the line implemented something similar to kind of throw me off, but none of them really did. The boss fight can be seen as a bit goofy, but I feel that works perfectly with Madarame, who is kind of this gentleman we never know whether we should be taking him seriously or whether he's like being satirical or comical. So I think the boss fight, how it was portrayed, really worked with his character. It started with the artist theme and then gave us the Madarame clones to deal with in that boss battle. They were kind of like the Power Rangers, I guess. They were all different coloured Madarames. Solid palace overall that definitely benefits from a good story link intertwined within it. Hence why it marks so high on this list. Being the official final boss of Persona 5 Royal, Maruki adds an extra layer to the game that isn't necessary, but really does take an incredible game to an exceptional level of game design. The entire story has been building to this moment, and all your efforts with your Maruki sessions have led you to this part. His palace has a great theme to it, alongside a very nice music score. The cutscenes and dialogue blend in perfectly with one another, and don't ever cross the line into being considered filler content, which is definitely a plus in a JRPG. I really enjoy how Maruki's intentions aren't necessarily bad or evil, but also it does make him a villain for manipulating with the real world to create this ideal world of his own without asking or considering what others may think of this. It's great as it's such a conflicting dilemma, and you know he means well by it, but is this actually the best way to go about things? The boss fight was decent. I felt the difficulty was enough to leave me satisfied without wanting to pull my hair out, which is always a plus. Just overall a solid and well thought out palace alongside finalising the story narrative in what seems to be a perfect way to close a book. The most difficult part in any game to get right is the first impressions, especially when dealing with a JRPG. JRPGs are notorious for being long-winded experiences that take at least 50 plus hours to complete, and then potentially 80 or 90 hours if you want to be a completionist. It's important to make people be invested in your game from the moment they press start. Persona 5 Royal perfectly executes a solid start and a launching point to gravitate players into this world. The tutorial is perfect to ensure players understand how the mechanics work without being overly handholdy and tedious. The music is catchy and yet not overbearing, which is important for a story beginning, as it's likely new players will spend the longest time in the first palace. The storylines built here are perfect foundations to lay the tone of the overarching story narrative and its characters. We start off strong with Joker, Ryuji, Ann and Morgana, whilst also having the arcs of Shido and Kamoshida blended in really well too. It's easy to hate Kamoshida, which is what you need for a good villain storyline. As well as his palace theme being so over-the-top eccentric, you really understand how powerful he is deemed in the real world. Like a king, he is untouchable and protected by those around him. This, in my opinion, just makes it even better to witness and contribute to his downfall. The boss is brilliant at teaching you how to pace yourself in turn-based fights without being too hard, and the palace ending is satisfying. Great start to a game. I had to rank it so high as it still is a standout area of the game for me personally. I've not seen a JRPG make such a convincing and well thought out tutorial level without it even really appearing as a tutorial level. Exceptional design. Sai Nijima's Palace to me is the number one, as it perfectly incorporates a cyclical narrative to the story alongside a strong palace theme that really helps us understand the characters even more. We are in a casino where all the games are rigged for us to lose, and the puzzles ahead is making it so we can win. Simple idea, but a really fun thing to play with. The music is excellent in this palace, it literally never gets old, no matter how long I spend in here. You've got the kind of boss rush gauntlet mode where it rounds up enemies versus Joker, he's on his own, you then have a dark maze where you need to find your way through, and final boss is set on the casino roulette wheel. Only downside to Sai being a boss means we do miss out on the chance to romance her during the game, so Kawakami and Takemi have to be the older women we lust after. I'm sure we'll cope, but Sai, if I could have romanced her, hell yeah I would have. The boss fight is great. I love how each phase is a different element to come up against, and you have to figure out quickly what her weakness is going to be. On the other hand, if you don't understand this is what the boss wants from you, you could be stuck at this boss for quite a long time. And there's no shame if you had to turn to a guide for this. Overall, it really helps us understand Sai and how she's not inherently a bad person, but a woman under severe pressure and stress at work. Due to being in such a male-dominated industry and being considered such a high-up person, there's a lot of strain on her and there's a lot of pressure to actually perform in the same capacity as her male counterparts. And that's got to weigh on a person. And like I said previously, the cyclical narrative in this palace is the icing on the cake. We are now back at the opening gameplay sequence, running around the casino, avoiding enemies, and then sadly, we get caught and found out we've been set up. It's just so cool to see how far you have come, and all the characters we didn't know in the beginning are now our allies. For me, this could have easily been the ending of the game, and I would have been satisfied with it. Really nice palace, has to be number one. So, that's my palaces ranked from worst to best in Persona 5 Royal. I hope you enjoyed this video even if you disagree with my rankings. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel to see more rankings, gaming videos and general life videos in the future. Thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next video, goodbye!